Okay, let's get started. Hi, I'm Bill, and if this is the first time dropping into my channel, welcome. For those of you that may be new to the channel, I'm entering my second year of data acquisition, so I consider myself a beginner, and I've recently started to work with PixInsight. I was using Pixel processor prior to that, but this video is not about PixInsight per se. In my second year, I've started to think about what is the quality of the data that I'm capturing, because what we may feed into the image processing side may determine a lot of our results. So I've been looking for something to help me understand the quality of my data, and so I am sure there's multiple tools that can enable you to do that. But what I'm going to share with you here is the SubframeSelector process that's within PixInsight. Again, I'm sure that there are other tools that could help you with this analysis. And I'm just going to read quickly from the PixInsight book a little bit about the subframe SubframeSelector process. And it says here, found in the script menu, batch processing submenu is the SubframeSelector SFS script contributed by PI user Mike Schuster. Now again, this book is a couple of years old. It's a powerful way of measuring the attributes of subframes beyond the visual inspection you performed with Blink. And so if you're not familiar with Blink, I'm just going to demonstrate it quickly here. And we're going to load a couple files in, and we're going to take these files here. Yep. And up till now, whether it was where I'm using PixInsight now and the Blink tool, or before DSS Deep Sky Stacker, I followed a process where I looked at my light files as well as my darks and my bias and flats, trying to make some visual determination of the quality of those frames. And but along the way, I've been learning as a beginner, and I understand better in my second year that there's the concept of air mass, and that objects lower on the horizon have to go through more of that signal, has to come through more of that air mass, so those signals may be fainter. And as we start to get up towards the zenith, that signal that we're able to detect and capture can go up. But then there are other attributes such as our stars, their eccentricity, the signal to noise ratio between frames. So there's a lot of attributes that we may be able to look at to help us determine which frames we might want to throw out. Now, up until now, I haven't thrown any frames out really, because we fight hard to get these images, to get these light files and everything, and the last thing I want to do is just throw one away. And in a general sense, if there's signal there, we want to try to keep that frame, because we're going to stack and we want as much signal as possible. So boy, what am I loading here? This is taking quite a bit of time. So maybe let's just let it run for a second. I apologize. But I'm kind of wondering what I'm going to get here, because normally it loads a lot quicker than this. So, and how many frames have I bringing in here? And how I got on this topic was, if you've seen my prior video, where last year I spent about 30 hours capturing data from M31, the Andromeda Galaxy, only to find out I was one filter off, so my data was kind of all horked. So now I'm going back and trying to recover some of that data. And while the files may have the wrong designator, like on these files here it says loom, but actually it's data collected with the red filter, and then red is actually green and green is actually blue. But what I wound up with was 81 4-minute exposures for red and 45 4-minute exposures for green and blue. Well, I don't want to have this imbalance. I want to stack 45 4-minute exposures for each filter. So now that I have 81 filters, it begs the question, which of these 81 files do I want to include in the 45 frames that I'm trying to get to? So again, you know, like many of us, we may load something into a tool. Here it's blink, and we may step through our images. You know, we may zoom in a bit and step through them. So we're really just doing a visual analysis of the data we're collecting, trying to see which frames we want to keep. And again, in my case, I've kept everything. But I may not want to keep everything. So what I want to show you now is a different process that I found. And again, this is not a tutorial on SubframeSelector, but I do want to show you some of the quality attributes that it can display, and this is what's going to help me decide how do I cull from 81 4-minute exposures for the red filter down to the 45 that I'm looking to achieve. So let's clear this out of here, and let's close blink, and let's open SubframeSelector, all processes, and we go down here. And again, I'm not necessarily trying to highlight PixInsight or the SubframeSelector process per se. I'm not knowledgeable enough. I'm sure there's other tools that can allow for similar type of analysis, but I just thought it was worthwhile to show you some of the relationships between the attributes we may choose to select which frames we might want to throw out. So in this here, I'm going to add some files, and again, I'm going to add the 81 files that I had in blink. And then I'm going to do the pixel scale, which I believe is 1.32. And these attributes are not so important right now because this is not a tutorial, and I have a 14-bit camera. And again, I want to get to the point where the actual data is displayed. And we're going to show this in pixels, and we're just going to set this to data numbers. No, data numbers. All right, and I'm going to go ahead. I think everything looks okay. I'm going to clear the file cache because I've run this before. Okay, this is going to run for about 3 minutes, so I'll be back then. Okay, the process has run, and we now have our table populated. I'm going to close this down, and what we have here is a nice, we're presented with a nice table. Up above, the frames are indexed by the exposure number. You know, 1 through, I think we should have 81 here if I do that. And then there's been several new algorithms for weighting files in PixInsight. I don't understand them all yet. I will put this link in the video to new image weighting algorithms in PixInsight. There's some good explanation in here, and if you like math, which I don't really like math, there's some math here and everything. And again, I think this is not important for the purpose that I'm trying to share here. Is really what I'm trying to share is there may come a time where we want to put a little more effort into understanding the quality of the data that we're collecting. One, because maybe there's some changes in our data acquisition side that can improve that data. But two, maybe there's some data we do not want to include. And again, I will admit, up till now, I've been including everything. I do a quick visual on the light files, and if they look okay, I include them. But again, I want to get down from 81 frames down to 45, so I need some help in picking out the best files. Now, I've still not determined what is the best attribute to use, but let's just start with PSF signal to noise, SNR. And this table, as you probably know over here, is a frequency graph. I'm not going to go into that. What I'm going to focus on is this chart here, and what we see here is the median. So I think essentially the average, and then how do things deviate from the median, and what is 1 sigma deviation and whatnot. But clearly we have some outliers here when I look at my frames from the PSF signal to noise ratio perspective. And I can come down here and I can say, oh, okay, so that's frame 42, 43, there's probably 44 in there somewhere, 44, all the way up to 51. So something happened when I was collecting the data for those frames that make them outliers to the other data that I collected. So maybe these frames I want to exclude. I don't know enough yet to make, definitive judgments yet, but clearly this is telling me that doesn't, those are outliers. And now let's compare that against signal to noise, which is an attribute that people can use. And we see here a similar pattern. So this tells me that when it comes to signal to noise, these are probably better light frames, and these are not so good. So let's change this maybe to stars. So now I've overlaid stars. And so what we also see here is where my signal to noise is lower. In a sense, I'm getting less stars in those images or those light frames than when my signal to noise is higher. Let's take another look at altitude. So I find this one interesting. If we take a look at frames 42 through 51, we start to see that from an altitude perspective, they're lower in the sky. And, to me that makes sense because, again, of air mass characteristics, and as we're lower towards the horizon, greater air mass, more that the faint signal of our objects needs to travel through, versus if we look up here in some of our stronger signal to noise evaluated light frames, we're up around an altitude of 60.295. So, not drawing any specific conclusions per se, a view like this might be telling me or give me the opportunity to understand that maybe I want to wait until the object is higher in the sky. I've kind of set 30 as the starting point, and clearly I get signal from those images that are at 30, an elevation of 30 degrees. Yes, the signal is fainter, but at the end of the day, when we're stacking, I think we want to try to stack as many frames as possible where there's signal, unless there's some other attribute that really is a reason not to stack them. But I just wanted to show you this. One of the ones is noise, and so let's bring this back. I need to understand the difference between PSF and SNR, signal to noise, versus noise. I find this interesting. So, so how do I interpret what I'm seeing here? And again, the purpose is not to be prescriptive here or even to be a tutorial around PixInsight and in particular SubframeSelector, but this is the first time I've tried to look at the data I'm collecting in a qualitative manner, where before I would just eyeball it, never really sure what I'm looking for, knowing that some frames appear fainter as far as the signal, different as far as the background, but this can help me understand my data a little bit better. And again, already from the view of the Andromeda data that I collected last year, I'm thinking maybe I want to move up to maybe the target being more 35 degrees of elevation above the horizon, or maybe even 40. So these are decisions, that I'll have to make. Imaging time is precious. I'd like to capture as many images as possible, but I want to make sure that when I'm capturing those images that the quality of the data is good. Now, what this tool will allow me to do is to weight the images. I've got a long way to go to understand that, but I just wanted to show you that there is a tool that is available. And let's see, is there anything else of any particular interest here that can help you look at your data from different quality attributes. And I believe that what I can do here is, see, I can mark these frames, and maybe there's one in here. Is there one in here? And then let me, just to tease you a little bit more, there's a tool I can use here for approving which files I want to keep, and these X's can enable me to reject those. And again, this is on calibrated and cosmetic corrected data as far as the PixInsight workflow. And again, that's not important because this is not a tutorial. But and then I can also then use some pixel-like math, some expressions to do some weighting of the images. So if I have my best image, oh yeah, let's see if we can do that. So 42 is maybe my worst image when looking at PSF SNR, and maybe 53 is good. So let's see what we see here. So there's 42, and let's come down here to 53, and let's move that down there. So let's take a look at this one. So that is frame 42, I believe. And here is, what did we say, 53. Let's put this down. So the question is, if I'm doing a visual inspection, can I really tell the difference between these two frames? And I think I can, because to me this image looks to have more signal and the background seems to be darker. So there is some visual differences, but I wouldn't really know how to approach that. And I think with subframe selector, I can weight images so that the better quality light files are weighted higher than other, and then I can also add a second attribute. So maybe we want to look at, here's another one I think that's popular, and that is full width half maximum. And so a lot of people will score their files based upon full width half maximum attribute. So there's a lot of different ways to look at data. And again, I don't want to go on because it was really just intended to share a concept that I'm working on, because I need to cull down from 81 images to 45, so which ones are the better ones. So I started to look at what tools were available to me to help me with that process, and clearly the subframe selector tool within PixInsight gives me some insight on how to cull down my images so I'm picking the best images. I'm still left with many things in PixInsight, a lot of different options, a lot of different ways to do things, and I have a lot of different attributes here that I could use to try to make my judgment. But there is a way beyond just visual examination of your light frames to start to dig into the qualitative attributes or the quality of the data that you're collecting, and I just wanted to share this. If there's another tool that you may use when you're culling through your light files to see which ones you're going to keep and which ones you may want to reject, or maybe you just accept everything in a sense, and let me know that in the comments. But this is year 2 for me as a beginner, and I want to better understand many things, one being guiding, one being setting the proper exposure limit, and another one being is what is the quality of the data I'm collecting, because that old garbage in, garbage out. I want to understand if I'm hurting myself by not doing a deeper inspection of the data I'm collecting based on quality attributes. Am I hurting myself or not? Now, some people will say I'm a beginner, and I am a beginner. It's my year 2, and some people might say, oh, I'm fussing and all that. But, I don't think it's fussing. I think, this problem came up that I had to reduce from 81 to 45, so I dug into this area of trying to understand the quality of my data better. If you think I'm fussing, fair enough, but I don't think I'm fussing. There's just so much to learn, and the other thing is, the more I work with PixInsight, I'm becoming more and more comfortable that the money I spent for the purchase of the license, as well as the $180 I spent for Atom Block Studios online training, and the what did I pay, $22 for this book, were all good expenditures and are providing value to me. So anyway, I've gone on too long, just wanted to share. I also wanted to get a little discussion. How do you judge the quality of your data? What tools might you use? Do you ever throw frames away, or do you just stack everything? So there's different, different approaches. I just thought I'd share something that I'm working on, and maybe it's of interest to you. And I just wanted to raise the question. All right, if you like this kind of content, please give it a thumbs up. As always, like, share, and subscribe. Other than that, I'm headed down up to Northern California around the 28th of June to the Golden State Star Party. It's under Bortle One Skies. I'll be working on field power only that I bring, so it should be a a good fun event. They've limited the number of participants to I think about 240. It'll be a mix of visual and astrophotographers. They've limited it again because of COVID still being present in our environment. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'll do a couple of videos of that venue for imaging and share some of the stuff I'm working on. All right. Again, thanks again for dropping into the channel, and I want to thank those of you that have subscribed to the channel. Again, I'm more of an experiential channel than a tutorial channel. In time, as I gain more knowledge and I think I can be credible in what I'm sharing with you in a more of a tutorial style format, I'll do that. But right now I'm just trying to share with you as a beginner entering my second year, what are some of the things I'm thinking about, what are some of the challenges I'm facing, you know, what are some of my successes and those type of things. So, you know, either you like the content or you don't, but your feedback is always welcome. Okay, other than that, clear skies.